All right, we're here in Niagara Falls with actor, producer, singer, the incomparable Robert Davi. Robert, welcome back to Niagara Falls. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. He's on the Road to Romance tour. Davi sings Sinatra. What does it all entail?
Well, I'm here doing the Falls View. I've been touring around the world. I've been in Latvia, Sweden, Budapest, Australia, Italy, China, Moscow. I've been all over the place, all across the States. And I'm, promoting my record, and now here I am at the beautiful Niagara Falls View Casino, which is quite stunning. It's interesting to me because my parents, I remember them telling me, I remember seeing pictures, those old Kodak booklets they used to have with the ruffled edges around the pictures. When they used to they didn't have digital, you had to develop your stuff, and you got them in a little booklet like that. I remember looking at my parents' pictures and seeing the Niagara Falls, but never being here till I came in June, and now I have this wonderful view outside the window here, and being able to perform music called On the Road to Romance, which is, this has been a honeymoon destination for many, many years. So it's kind of, a very interesting journey. And great band we have rehearsing today. I'm a little tired.
Is this your first time performing here in Niagara Falls?
First time. Yeah. I have not been here before. Have not performed except in Toronto. I got a star on the Italian Walk of Fame.
Yes, I remember.
And I got that. So I did a couple of little things at a gala for the, but that was with just the local players and stuff. This is now with, 36-piece band, tremendous string section, and of course my rhythm section, and great vibraphonist and pianist, drummer, and bass player from Los Angeles. Top players, rhythm section. So it's first time playing in Canada.
In Canada.
And I hope to come back many more times.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
you coming to the show?
Absolutely. We're here Thursday night.
Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful.
Oh yeah, the row 6.
Good,
and I'm going to be like this. Hi, Robert. Hey.
That's great.
I won't do that. I know that the show's classy.
Oh yeah.
You're talking Frank Sinatra. I mean, listen, I've seen you on the internet, and your movements, everything. Wow.
See, there are guys that do impersonations or imitations, or they mimic, or they even put facial things on to look like Sinatra. And they use the same charts he used. I don't. They use all original charts except for maybe a couple that were given to me by Quincy Jones, who's a very strong supporter of mine. But the whole great quality about Sinatra, and this is his 100th anniversary this year, and what I'm doing in terms of tributing him, or paying homage to him, more than tributing, is an homage to Sinatra because of his. I did my first film with him in 1977, Contract on Cherry Street, and he was a friend of mine over the years, and also the meaning and the significance of this music is so important. The Great American Songbook, which translates all over the world, as I've been able to attest to that myself now that I put my hat in the ring. So I don't mimic him. He was a terrific actor. So it's through the interpretations and through his Picassoesque contribution to music that he had, and his vocal quality that he had, the bel canto technique, which is what I've studied as a kid and as an adult.
Right, and that's what I was going to ask you. When you were in school, what did you ever think that you were ever going to go into music? I mean, you're obviously an actor, but was it ever something? I mean, I know the story of the football in the locker room, and someone said, that's.
No, that's a true story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
go down to the Glee Club, and you didn't want to go, and
right. My mom said, "What do you have to lose?" And I tried, and there were all the pretty girls, 4 guys and 20 girls in the club, and that was it, But I had a very good voice, and I won first place New York State School Music Association solo competition as a kid, you know, as a teenager in school, and had wanted to get involved with music in depth. But I was a baritone with the heart of a tenor, as I'm sure you know.
Yes. Yeah. That I've heard
And the baritones in opera, and I love the opera, play all the villains. You know what I mean? It's much like in the films that I've done. You know, but I was really a romantic at heart, and the Great American Songbook lets me, as a baritone, lets me perform in that you know, more of the romantic side.
So I have to ask you. I mean, like, your voice is incredible. We did a thing today on the internet. We listened to Frank and we listened to you and on YouTube, and we were just listening to both, and we were like, wow, look at this. Like I said, like you said, you don't mimic Frank Sinatra at all, but very similar, very style is just...
Well, the style, and here's how I explain that to people, because again, there are guys that try to mimic recordings of Sinatra, so they have no idea of the process. Meaning, Sinatra studied opera with a guy named John Quinlan from the Metropolitan Opera when he was a young man. And then he continued to take lessons from great singers like Robert Merrill. Now, myself as a young boy studied opera with Dan Ferro from Juilliard, Samuel Margulies, who taught Robert Merrill, who gave Sinatra workshops later on in life. And then Tito Gobi, who was the greatest singing baritone in the opera world. I worked with him, and most recently, the only guy that I think has a tremendous vocal builder, Gary Katona, out of Los Angeles. So, explaining that, the idea of Sinatra being the first popular singer that used bel canto technique in popular music, that's a style of Italian singing, that gave him a vocal depth that others didn't have, you see, and others don't have. They can mimic a certain part of that, but not really know how that is really working, you know what I mean? So it doesn't, and now and I call Sinatra the first method singer, because he was a great actor. So being able to put yourself into the lyric is another thing. And his understanding of music, of course. He had a brilliant mind with music in terms of, for myself, like I love classical music. I love, Shostakovich or Debussy. The authenticity of who you are.
Okay.
That's the other thing that Sinatra had that these other guys mimicked. They're not that. They're not the tough guy.
Right.
You know, Sinatra had guys that he emulated and learned from, like Bing Crosby. He learned also from Harry James and Tommy Dorsey. And he worked with the best people in the world.
The questions I had
Nelson Riddle, of course, he was able to discuss his musical ideas with Nelson Riddle and Gordon Jenkins and all these great guys, Don Costley.
Right. Oh, wow. Frank Sinatra was a huge presence when he walked on stage. The aura, everything about him, it was just this. As a kid growing up and watching him, you could feel it. You know, you just knew that he just had to walk into a room, walk on stage, whatever it might have been, anything I've ever seen, newspaper clippings, all that kind of stuff. Yourself, I know we've already spoken about the mimicness and that kind of like maybe not mimicking him, but what, for you, what's the preparation?
The authenticity of who you are.
Okay.
That's the other thing that Sinatra had that these other guys mimicked. They're not that. They're not the tough guy.
Right.
You know, Sinatra had guys that he emulated and learned from, like Bing Crosby. He was a big fan of Bing Crosby. Russ Columbo. Listened to these guys continually. He had a huge respect for Humphrey Bogart. So Sinatra built his persona, as we all do, based on a collage of brilliant talent that you respond to. So you take aspects of that in the etherland of creativity. You know, I love Bogart, I love Lee Marvin, and probably a lot of the same guys. You know, Sinatra liked George Raft. You know, who's an original tough guy. So
Yeah.
you have, and then growing up back east in New York, and you know, so I don't have to mimic that bullshit.
Right.
I am that stuff. You know, the LA Times magazine section came out in the early 90s. The cover of the LA Times magazine, "The Mob Goes to Hollywood." And I was on the cover.
Yeah.
Now Sinatra had all these, you know, references to that. That's not what it's just interesting that because of a certain Italian-American background and toughness, that they would make that analogy, which is all bogus. Especially, you know, Sinatra was such an artist. Sure, you meet people that are interesting, but
Yeah.
and then the love affairs that he had with Ava Gardner and all of that, his life was way out in the front. But I don't do any, no, my preparation is my life. It's who I am. I always say that there are two singers that could look you in the eye and say, "I'm going to break your legs." And that's Sinatra and myself. You know, a great Canadian singer, Michael Bublé, ain't going to look you in the eyes and say that he's a great artist. But he doesn't have that edge that Sinatra had. So when you go on stage, you carry that. You know, I'm considered one of the top Bond villains of all time. GQ magazine in Britain just came out with the best Bond villains. I'm like in the top 3, Goldfinger, Scaramanga, and myself. So you come onto the stage already with a certain kind of event feeling or a presence because people that see the films you're doing, that helps you. You know what I mean? As opposed to someone who is an unknown trying to mimic the greatest performer that ever lived. That doesn't have the stamp of their own personality. So you're responding to that in some way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or the audience's.
You as an actor, you play the role as villain, and you know, we're going back to Jake Fratelli and the Goonies. I saw the movie in the theater in 1985, so it was really nice to actually talk to you here while you were here this summer, being here for the 30th anniversary. Do you actually keep in touch with a lot of those people from the film at all?
Periodically, you know, if there's a chance to run into them, you know, there's always a fondness, and that's with most films you do, or TV things, you know. You all know each other's work in some format or some way. I remember, you know, meeting, I had met Winona Ryder, or, you know, other kids, even, what's her name, Rachel McFadden.
Right.
We did The Hot Chick, and she was all, you know, Goonies was a great film of hers, you know. So you meet these people before they, you know, Nona was very kind and very terrific, very delicate actress. When we did The Iceman, I had met her, but there was a, you know, so people you meet, they know you and they have a, and it's a mutual, but,
oh,
yeah, so yeah, I ran into Josh Brolin at a coffee shop about 2 years ago, you know, and it was, you know, Jeff Cohen you might run into. So you run into people and there's always a come out.
So with Niagara Falls Comic Con that was here, we just went to Hamilton Comic Con and Jonathan Key Kwan was there. Coming back to Goonies, sorry, you know, on social media and all that, you hear all this stuff, you see all these kinds of things. Do you know they want to do number 2? Or maybe a continuation?
Who knows? They've been talking about that for a while. We'll see what happens.
If they approached you, would you do it?
Sure, why not? Yeah.
So would it be Fratelli brother in jail? And, we're going to bust him out again? You wouldn't even know.
No, I mean, who knows that? I have my own idea how it should go. I think that what you have is, our mom passed away, so you can't have her in the film. So they probably buried her in a potter's field. And Joey and I exhumed her body because she has a remnant of the map, or how to find the pirate ship. That's one of the things that I have. So you have this very interesting, and you know, I fantasized about that opening thing, and that Joey was managing me. I was a lounge singer, and he was managing me and ripping me off. Because of course I like the opera in the thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
So he was, so at least the Fratellis, who knows what they invent, if they invent, you know, they make sequels of everything, but Goonies, I guess they leave it alone.
What do you do in your downtime?
Well, it's a lot of, I like the current events. I like, you know, the sociology of what's happening in the world. Maybe too much so. You know, I get a little obsessive with it all.
Yeah.
And I write. I do some of that kind of, so that's interesting to me. You know.
Oh, no, that's great. One final fun question.
Yeah, because I'm about to.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
I'm yawning out, baby.
No problem. Hey, I so appreciate this time. You have to go to a deserted island. This is a tough one. You're only allowed to take 3 movies with you. What would they be?
3 movies. I would only take 3 movies. I don't know, Casablanca.
Oh, yeah, that was a sad one earlier.
I'd take Cinema Paradiso.
Oh.
That had a thing to it. You know, that was very, the music and that and the story. And probably, you know, it's difficult to say with 3. If you had just to take 3 films. What was that film that's 12 hours long?
The Stand.
Is that it?
Was it The Stand with Stephen King?
12 hours long?
Oh, I don't know. That was a long one.
No, there's a film that's actually like a whole big thing that's like quite a long.
12 hours long.
Yeah, it's an Indian. I think an Indian film.
Just to kill time, I guess.
Look, you know, you could say Godfather 1 and 2. You know, you could say all kinds of stuff. You could say, you know, Stanley Kubrick's. You know, there are so many great films. Those are. Yeah.
So what do you got coming up that we can look forward to in the future? Do you have any projects on the go besides, I mean, obviously Davi sings SINATRA?
There's a few things. They've done a documentary on me that'll be out sometime next year. That we've been working on for the last over a year. That should be very interesting. And I have a film, Your Move, I did with Luke Goss that is going to be finished, and a couple of other things that are being worked on. And of course the music, traveling around.
When does the tour end?
Well, it's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, I morph it into, you know, this is the centennial of Sinatra, so I keep doing the American Songbook, and then I finish my next album. I'll be finishing my next album shortly, and then continue to singing, of course, but bringing some other elements into the show besides the songbook. Some very interesting things.
Oh, that's awesome. I would like to take the time to thank Robert Davi for you know, taking the time to talk to me and giving me this interview. You're fantastic. You know.
Thanks for your time, and
no.
we finally got it together. And I'm sorry I'm so knackered, but I'm tired.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I'm tired.
I get it. And you know, so what you can do is you can go to www.davisingssinatra.com and you can see where he is coming to a town near you. I'm definitely going to be there Thursday. I cannot wait. It's going to be a fantastic show. And wow, what can I say? I'm sitting here in awe. Just sitting here in awe. And I want to thank you very much, kind sir.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, take care. Thank you kindly. And that's a wrap. Jeez, you know what, dude? Oh my gosh, I'm just like throwing all this stuff in my